welcome back to Estate Agency Mastery. Now, I am super excited to have Angi on from C Residential. I've sat at the ESTAs and you get to see loads of people go up and win awards, but what you don't see is the whole of the UK's winner, which is what you were, I think, Angi, in 2022. You came runner-up 2023. Hopefully we'll see you back on that podium. The best agent in the UK, that's quite a title. So listen, I'm honoured and pumped to have you on. But you know what my questions are, Angi. If I'm an agent in Birmingham, Belfast, Bognor Regis, or in your case, Staffordshire, give me 3 tips that really you want to share with the guys that have got you through to the success you've had today.
Okay, so really, I think you just have to let me ramble. I'll very quickly run through them. There's no secret to success. You can't get it quick. Consistency is key. And to be honest, I've listened to your other podcasts and I've got some great takeaways from that. Guy called John Savage, where I listened to him talking about is your property isolation or in competition? That's been gold for me. I hate using your terminology, but that's absolute gold nuggets. So I think that I feel very pale and insignificant compared to your other guests, to be honest. So I try to think about what I would want to listen to if I was an agent sat there. What I've got is no different from any other of your guests. I don't wrap things up, as you know. So I've got 3 things. Exceptional communication, first of all. An outstanding agent, clear, timely, consistent, honest. Because if you're not that, you should be out the game, really. Market knowledge and expertise. Make sure that you are absolutely know your stuff, because you need to be that expert, the property professional and expert in your field. And if you're not, all the fancy schmancy everything, if you haven't got all of that and you don't possess those and they haven't got that in your armoury, you are knackered. So don't go in there blind. It's not that market anymore. You've got to stand out. You've got to be exceptional. And strong negotiation skills. And I think that people forget they're there to look after the client. So they should have strong negotiation skills. I'm forever learning. I'm forever sitting there with the team, with myself. I'm looking at all the training things at the minute that there is out there to get them back to basics, because I'm a back to basics type of gal. And I think that you need to, there's lots of agents out there. To stand out and be exceptional, you've got to make and believe that you are exceptional. There's a line that Ian McKenzie uses from the Guild, which I absolutely love. Don't tell me you're funny, make me laugh. In agency world, that means don't tell me you're good at it. Don't give all the bullshit and bollocks. Get off and do what you're supposed to do. And when you strip everything away, you're there to look after your clients, negotiate the best skill and sell houses. And everything else, if you follow those 3 things, everything else will follow and you will be successful.
Do you know what, Ange? I think this is going to be a brilliant podcast. So you say there's nothing different, but these are themes for me that are huge, right? And I like the do it rather than just tell me. I think that's absolutely brilliant. So let's say I'm an agent now, right? I'm listening to this going, communication. I think I'm a good agent. I do negotiate hard. My market knowledge is all right, but let's pick on that first one, communication. Do you have a set time you speak to vendors? Do you have a documented, I guess, process for how you give feedback? How do you really excel at communication? Is it WhatsApps? You tell me.
No, see, I've listened and all these people with the WhatsApps and the emails. We have failed if we email. There's somebody here had sent an email to cancel viewings because we'd sold the house beforehand. We failed. That's failure in my books, because pick up the fucking phone. You all hiding behind WhatsApp, you're hiding behind emails. Pick up the phone. It's not rocket science. As you know, I've been an agent for 30 years. Pick the phone up, speak to clients. The reason why online agents fail is because they hide behind technology. So the communication, strip it all out, pick the phone up and get on the phone to your clients.
I've been speaking a lot about this I'm looking at AI in the estate agency, and I'm off to a conference in a few weeks, a 2-day conference on AI and the tools we can bring in. And I've said on a number of times, I think I said it on this very first podcast actually, that the human touch is going to be so underrated by agents as they look at automating processes and open rates and all that good stuff. But in order to not replace the agent with tech, you need to give great tech which allows the agent to then still be that point of contact and provide that fiduciary advice. So I love that.
The thing is, I did a kerfuffle asked me to give a quote on AI, where I said I love it, but I hate it at the same time. AI is coming, but you have to use the AI wisely. And I think that the exceptional agents are the ones that do not forget that they're there. We can go to these award ceremonies, we can go along, but I listened to something you said as well, that you'd been on the BBC and you got back and there was just you in the office because everyone was out. That's real life. It's not all the glitzy, blah, blah, blah. It's fucking hard work, and it's hard work. And if you're not prepared to put that in, you will fail. I know it's the same in any industry, but you will fail at this job if you do not communicate properly.
And you're saying the phone should be your number one tool, your number one.
Phone's the number one tool, and all the AI and all of that is there to aid you and help you write that email, make it look more professional, and give you tips. And to me, I use AI to give me the words that I can't eloquently, I've got it here, I can't eloquently put down. So if I get a framework from, whether it be ChatGPT or any other thing that's out there, I use the framework and make it Angi Cooney. It's a bit like the social media stuff. I can ask it to create social media posts with emojis because I like emojis, but I'll always get it. But it's very rigid, isn't it? It's rigid. Yeah. So what you have to do is you make sure that you haven't got an Z where an S should be, and because people will catch you out. They know if it's been written by AI.
Well, mine's really real because it's full of spelling mistakes. That's how people know that I don't use AI, because I'm dyslexic. So I love that. Right. I want to move on because it's a quick form podcast.
Come on, then,
do you think, though, Ange, on communication, by picking up the phone, you get more referrals because of the personal service? And do you think by being on the phone more, you get more business and more loyalty from your current clients as well?
Loyalty from clients is huge for me.
So from a retention point of view, they don't switch, even if they don't get the price.
They don't. And to be fair, touch wood, our retention rate is huge. I haven't worked out the stats. We rarely we rarely lose a client. Because you asked me a minute ago how we do it. Yes, it's the telephone. But every single day, we have a morning meeting every day, can last 15 minutes, half an hour or an hour, right? But I will go through every single vendor. So I work on a 50-50 near enough split. If I've got 60 in the soul pot, I've got 60 for sale. And I talk about it every day. And I talk about not the sales progression every day, but I quickly go through and say, right, let's go. And I do price order, quickly run through what's happening with those clients. So, and we've got a vendor contact program where James, who's the valuer, he will go out and it's his responsibility to talk to the owners. And if we've had no viewings, no anything on it in a week, we will talk about it and James gets in touch with them.
Nice. I really like that.
Let's face it, they're not all badly, not everything needs a price reduction. Sometimes there's just no clients. But as long as you're telling people there's just no clients, and actually this is what we're doing, the social media, because we are fantastic at social media, and I know we are. So as long as I know that we are doing our very best, we'll always go out, retake photos, Sometimes you can't reinvent the wheel. You've just got to let people know that you're still there and you haven't forgotten them. Remember, I was an agent in the bloody 80s and 90s and 2000s where real recessions kicked in and houses still sold, less of them, but you still had clients you got to talk to.
Nice. I love that. So go old school, pick up the phone and you won't lose.
Not old school, it's just being an agent. It's not old school. Good estate agency practice.
Do you know what? I do hear that. Okay, fine. So the next point I think was market knowledge.
Yeah. Know your shit. Don't flag it.
Yeah, but I can just do a right move best price guide, can't I?
Hang on. Make yourself knowledgeable. Listen to others. Listen to people who are good. Listen to me. Listen to you, sort of. Listen to anybody else that you admire. Not everybody's going to be for you, but find somebody that and I'll say this thing about find your tribe. find somebody that you think, bloody hell, I admire that person, I listen to that person. I mean, make yourself, open up your knowledge. John Savage, I'd never heard of him, God love him, but I've never heard of him. I have now. And because I listen and I try and pick up tips, you will all say the same things, but different.
Yeah.
It's how different, it's things that work, like the isolation of competition.
So what, because I got to speak to your valuer beforehand, and it was great to meet him. And I think one of the things you mentioned from this podcast you took away was a script that John had thrown out. So I guess when you say, is it upskilling? Is it training? Like, how do you, so again, say I'm listening to this as a viewer, what skills do you think are uber important as an agent to upskill yourself on?
Continual. It's not upskilling. It's not, they should be continually listening and learning all the time. Me, I'm always learning. Sounds really naff because I hear that and go there, but I just work and I listen. And my little thing is, you can't train people to be effective communicators. You can't. They've either got it or they haven't. So if anybody, I've got a young girl, her mom rang me yesterday to see if I've got any work experience or I'm taking on any trainee, and I said, well, I'm not. But if she wants to come in, but don't you do it? Because if I don't like her, the minute she walks in and starts talking, there's no point.
It's a really interesting one. So
people need to instantly that's why I love people who worked in the service industry, waiters, bar people, anybody like that, because they've got the gift of the gab. Because you need to know that you will like you. Not everybody needs to love you, but they will like you or trust you enough. Because I'm quite a divisive figure, so are you. And really, I'm going to give you this little anecdote. I went to evaluation the other day, went in, said to the guy, I dealt with him 14 years ago for lettings. And then I thought, that's it, I've got this job. I was talking about social media. And I said to him, I was on social media, I put a post, some woman had put underneath, I really don't like this woman. And I don't think she realised that I could see it. So I replied back and said, I'm really sorry you don't like me. You can always switch me off type thing. And the guy physically said to me, well, I know loads of people that don't like you. And I went, oh, okay. Sort of blagged that through. Came out, thought my little ego was bruised just that little bit. I didn't get the instruction because they wanted me to reduce my fee and I didn't want to. So I walked away. But I rang Chris Watkin and I went, this is what this guy's just said. And he went, do you know what, Ange? He said, if you need to reverse that. And if anybody says this to you again, which I am going to use this as well, Mrs. Vendor, Mr. Vendor, if you're in a court of law and you'd got two lawyers and it was a really serious thing, and you'd got one who asked about you every day and just checked that you're nice and cuddly, or you'd got one that you knew was like a Rottweiler and you were going to win and get you the best result, who would you have?
I love that script. Do you know, Ange, you've touched on scripts because you can have the gift of the gab, but if you can't effectively communicate, going back to your first one, so for me, script practicing, objection handling.
I listened to something you got. You must have a script thing out there, which I will talk to you about later on after this. Which I'm going to sign up to, because I actually think I want to give scripts to the team here, and scripts for me, because sometimes you forget.
Do you know what, Ange? I am so pro scripts, and a lot of people will go, scripts mean you're manipulating the client.
No,
scripts mean you can actively listen. And I'll give an example, right? And then we'll move on to the next point. My first business, which wasn't a million miles away from where you are now, I'd go out, I'd gift to the gab it, and people go, we quite like your fresh approach. I think I was 26 years old when I set my first agency up. And they go, we just need to think about it. I go, oh, yeah, no problem. I'm not a pushy agent. And I go back to the office and go, yeah, I've won that probably. Well, probably, right? What I didn't say is, oh, no problem. Listen, normally when people say they need to think about it, there's a couple of things I haven't covered. What specifically is it you need to think about? Or I need to speak to my partner. Okay, no worries. So I can address exactly what you think your partner might be concerned about in an email. What top 3 points should I focus on? Right, and just get it on, just completely move it up, move the conversation on, right? Whatever. But it's the amount of lost business. But you've said something else I really want to touch on quickly, and that is, because agents don't necessarily upskill themselves on the whole in the UK compared to the other countries I've been to, they become desperate for listings. And like you said, if someone says I don't like you and then they ask you to reduce your fee, you're going to choose to walk away from that listing. I went out last week and I had to let someone know that their property was worth 500,000 less than what they thought. And I said, listen, go on with another agent. And if you don't get the results you want, and you'll have a serious conversation about what we can do, and we'll produce renders of what it could look like. It's a bit old and tired. We'll speak to developers because then let's have a conversation. But actually, I don't think we're the right agent for you right now. And I wouldn't have been able to do that if I was desperate for listings. But she was completely shocked. What agent's going to do that? And I think it's so key to be in the position where you're not scrapping for listings because your value and your
if you look at our figures, we are the #1 agent, and we consistently #1 in this area. We don't win them all. I don't even know what my conversion rate is, because that's not important to me. I know I'm not like most agents, but what's important to me is the service that we provide to those clients. So I focus more on service than I do on those figures. I obviously have got my eye on that figure, because if I didn't, I wouldn't be a very good business owner. I obviously do, but it's less important that we get our fees. So we get our fees and we get them at the right price. I have been into evaluation, sat in front of a client, and they've said, you know, Joey up the road said he'll get me 50 grand more than you said. And I've gone, oh, wow. I tell you what, can you keep in touch with me and let me know if you get that? Because if he manages to get you that, I'm going to put my house on the market with him when I sell. And they go, oh, and that is the truth. I got my folder. Went, thanks ever such a lot for your time. Because but then God, do I use this word? I am empowered. Every single one of the team here know that I've got their back. And I think that's important as well. So it's not a sale at any cost, fee at any cost. They don't have to come in and I put them on the cross and they have to justify why the fees, what the fee is. You do what you've got to do to get it. But I've got a minimum and I'm not prepared to go below that. And James, all the time, I'm now a 2% agent. James came back and got a 5%. And I've said, I can't take 5%. It's 2%. He was going, yeah, but I've got 5%. It doesn't matter. We're 2%. And everywhere you look, we're 2%. And I would hate to think that somebody thought I'd ripped him off. And they loved him that much, which is great.
I've got a story there, but we don't have time for it. Two things. Okay, Dominic Marcel, another podcast, I think it was episode 6 maybe, talks about he doesn't invest heavily in marketing. He invests in world-class customer service. So his clients, not past clients, his clients or clients of old become his marketing department. So if someone says, oh, I'm thinking of selling, on Facebook, he gets about 500 people tag him in because of the world-class touch points. So I love that. We also, and I'm moving to the last point now, Ange had a guy on. I'm not sure if we're going to air his episode before yours or not. It's called Perry Power, and he absolutely.
I mean, what a name! I mean,
I know, what a name, what a handsome chap. But he talks about when he goes and pitches, he gets out. He's no Ange. He gets out his certificate and goes, "Wow, look, we've." Every single one of my team, including myself, a national diploma in advanced negotiation. And it's so true, right? Agents just ferry things back and forth. And that was your key point. So what do you do differently? Or again, if I'm listening to this up in Belfast and I'm going, I like Ange, but she give me some good tips, but how do I negotiate better? Where would you point me?
And how do you get people to negotiate? You can sit a monkey in front of a computer and say, this is a negotiation seminar, learn how to negotiate. It's called experience, and it's just about knowing the right, but then that's about getting the right blend of people to work in your team so that they feel comfortable enough to be able to say that. If we get an offer and I had one yesterday, right? And then remember, our figures are different to the London figures. So she's on at 300 and she'd sold at 290 before. I had somebody, and the sale fell through. I had somebody that came in and offered 283.5, and she said, I'll accept 290. And I said, right, I'm going to let you know what I'm about to tell them. It's 292,500 because she's on at 295. And she went, no, we'll accept 290. I went, no. We're going to tell them we want 292,500. So I'd sent to them, look, she's on at 295. That's what she'd set a bench. She'll meet you halfway to 292,500 or near enough.
Yeah.
And they went off, and they came back and they went, oh, no, we'll offer him 290. And I went, don't know whether I'll be able to get you that. I put the phone down, waited 10 minutes, rang the vendor, went, I've got you the 290. And she went, God. So she's delighted, obviously.
Do you know what, Ange? That's the gold.
It's mad because everybody here, whenever we get an offer, doesn't matter what it is, they all, because we're an open office and they all listen, they've all been trained my way. They listen in, and I learn from them as well. But basically, whatever they get, whatever the vendor's happy with, we'll go for that extra mile, because vendor's happy. At least it covers our fees. So
and then you might get it. You might not.
Chris, right? I know you wanted 280, whatever it was. I've got you 285, mate. That at least covers me fees. And they go, oh, Ange, thanks a lot.
Do you know, I love it. And I always say when I pitch, but your final offer I get you won't be a round figure. I'll always get you solicited. That's how we know that I've played all that. I'll push it to such a high win-win. So you the win-lose, or I feel we're in that danger.
So how can you put that? How can I sit here on your podcast and say, this is the golden nugget?
Because, Ange, because I'll tell you why. If I've never done that exact strategy or technique, right? So I always push to where I want to get them to, right? And I like to think I'm a good negotiator, but you've given actually a technique, which is the person at the other end of the phone thinks they've got a deal. You're satisfying the person on the top, and there's so many different ways you can go about negotiating, but that one's just really simple.
But there's only one person who matters at this point, and that's our seller.
Yeah.
And our seller, and then everything we do with the buyer after that will follow. See, I've worked it out. I think we've got something like 72% clients come back to us. They don't always use us, Chris, because we're not the cheapest agent. We are double than most agents around here. But if they don't, fuck off. Because if we didn't show you our worth, I listen to you. We failed because we didn't get it. They didn't choose us because we didn't show them our worth. I have a very different opinion to that. But I'll tell you what we will do. We will love them, and we will make them feel loved, and we don't make them feel like a crock of shit for going on with somebody else. But we'll keep in touch. We have them little touch points and stuff.
I like that. Listen, I could go on to podcast too. We're going to have to get you back on. And you have delivered gold, whether you think so or not.
Well,
I really appreciate you, and I'm very much looking forward to sitting next to you next year. We've got 2024.
This year, no pressure.
Go on. I'll catch you soon. Cheers, Ange.